Is this thing on? I think the lighting's okay. Hello. Can someone give me thumbs ups about how rude about the lighting and the sound and things? Thank you very much. So it's not even a Monday. And hello, Rubius Sky Hands. Good, yes, we're all good. So thank you for joining me on this not a Monday, it's a Tuesday, and at the wrong time when everyone's getting home from work, or this is the wrong time. But there's a reason why it's not a Monday, and there's a reason why it's at the wrong time. And the reason why it's not a Monday is, and first, for those of you who are watching this after the event, I'm sorry, but this is how these streams work. Thank you for letting me know. Thanks, Mueller. The sound is good. Good. This is how it works. I ramble for a bit. Then we do some updates where I am. I've got models next to me. Then we'll might talk to some people, and then we'll get onto the topic. So we'll get there in the end, because this is on the wrong day at the wrong time. There's not a lot of people watching this live. But thank you everyone who has come. Asbo, thank you. Thank you everyone who can make it at this awkward time. Now, the reason why it's not a Monday is because I want to catch you on the Mondays. I want to catch you on your best day after you've worked out over the weekend and eaten tofu and things like that, chap. And I want to catch you after those moments before, when you feel all those hormones, all that exercise, you're strong, you're hard after the weekend, hard for life, before the week grabs you and grinds you down with its jaws and you realize just how much meaninglessness and death and pain there is in this world, and what horrors exist. And at least in 28,000 years' time, we'll be united under the Emperor of Mankind and crusade out across the cosmos and battle demons and Xenos. Until then, we must suffer through it, each our own trials. So I can't catch you on a Monday when I'd like to catch you on a Monday, and I'd like to catch you on a Monday because then it doesn't interfere with other people's stuff. But what happens on Mondays is sometimes things happens on Mondays, like friends turn up and you end up playing 40k and not filming. That happens. Hi, sound is good. Good, great. No questions yet. This is going well. So it's not going to be on the Monday all the time, but I like for it to be around on the Monday so it doesn't interfere with other people. And then the reason why we're doing this one earlier to today is because I'm filming the STC podcast thing with Warsmith Chris at 8 o'clock, and the time is now 6-ish. So we've got an hour and a half. That's a good boundary, otherwise I'll go on for 3 hours. So that's a good boundary to hit. And if you're watching this after the event, which most of you are, or listening, then what's your favourite kind of bread, Dats and Des? Well, at the moment, Dats and Des, I don't eat bread because we're doing the keto thing. It's working really well. I've lost over a stone. Thanks for asking. So all bread is evil and must be stamped out. Even keto bread, that's really evil. What was I talking about? So we're doing it this weird time. The STC, filming the STC. And for those of you watching this after the fact, that if you want to get any questions in to be answered, law questions on the STC, then channel membership, it's in my Discord, which you get access at tier 2, and then all the videos. Whatever videos on whatever platform in the future, I'm sharing them all over the place. So come join me on any platform. I'm not taking anything away from anyone in the deployment zone, and giving other people the opportunity to watch my videos across multiple platforms. And on that note, by the way, last week I did do a little bit of a rant about merch, I think. I've got to remember to pimp the merch. So this time, look, another new t-shirt. See, we got the lovely t-shirt, another new merch. Check out the merchandise store on YouTube. If along the banners where it's like videos about membership, on there's a merch thing. And last week when I said this, well, no, I wasn't on last week. So it's been 2 weeks. So maybe on a Monday, but not last Monday, the Monday before. One person bought a t-shirt. And whoever you are out there, wherever you live, thank you so much for supporting me in that way and showing your colours, showing your you're the best side of yourself. Thank you. I appreciate you more than you know. It's lovely stuff. Hello, Winters. Hope you are keeping well. Yes, the keto diet is working very well. It's she's still a lovely cook, and she can cook all the things lovely, Lily. And for someone who's had his troubles over the last few years, it's a goal that I can stick to. I mean, it's not going to be permanent. It's a goal that I can stick to rather easily. And being goal or centered and achieving those things, it's very important. With your mental state, you need to do a merch peak cap for the follically challenged out there. No, there was a short. I told you guys, no caps. So my hobby thing, I finally got the bases from marchofwar.co.uk. So thanks for shouting them out. So all three of these are based now, and over the weekend, I smashed out. Not one, but two chocolate croissants. I can't have croissant and I can't have chocolate unless it's like 90% chocolate. Yeah, and look, this one with all the scarabs over, and these bases lovingly supplied by marchofwar.co.uk, these ruins ones. And bit of trickery. Look, that's the big chunky one. Look, take that off. Put that on, and it goes from gunboat to transporter. That's the night scythe, and this is the doom scythe. See? Lovely. Two of them to add to the vehicle pool, because the vehicle pool for the Necrons was not that large. I think I'm about 9,000 points now. We have these. These were done today, prepped and sprayed with their big giant, shall we say, I mean, what would you say, that long, tall thing? Thank you, Killer Kriegsman, for the first donor of the evening. And it's just you simply say, because I like you. Well, I like you too. Well, what does this look like? I think what it looks like is, my mind's gone completely blank. Some sort of, you could imagine an alien plant growing that way. Yes, like a cactus, a tall, erect, a chimneys, not phallic protrusions, Dats and Des. No, we're trying to stay away from the phallic protrusions. Chimneys is better, yes. So they're all sprayed. Phallic profusions, dragging us down. Children watch this, you know. So yeah, building out the pool for them. The idea is I've got another monolith coming in. So the two monoliths and the Tesseract Arc will be a thing. And then the creatures, and then I've got some more bits. Basically, I think by the end of the month, I hope to have smashed out the last of the Necrons, and then the idea is to actually make a video about it. Like, this is how much I painted in a year. I don't know what to call it. I mean, look at all the Necrons I painted. Wow, look at me. What should I call it, guys? Because I want to do a video showing everything and put them on pause for a bit, because I want to work on the 30k projects that I've got, the Emperor's Children, the Death Guard, the World Eaters, and Den of Imagination, greatest painting studio on Terra. I have currently working on the Sons of Horus right now. Are there Necron models that you love to look at more than play? No. So thanks for the question, Niall. Yeah, so I want to do a video saying this is what I did, and I don't know what to call it, and I've got ideas about it, which will be like, this is why I painted these, not to the speed painting if anyone's interested, the kind of different lists you can play, the kind of different lists I'm looking forward to playing, the kind of different builds that you can do with Necrons, that sort of video. But what do I call it? This is a question and answer session, chat. We're in this together. My Necrons, look at all the good stuff I painted this year. Pat my head. What do I call it? Is it Winters talks about his Necrons? Is it my 10,000 point Necron collection? What do I call it? Anyone? Bueller? The planet broke before the dynasty did. Dats and Des. Yeah, so thanks for your suggestions, chat. So I hope to finish these off quite quickly. I need to get a couple more stalkers because I've only got one showcase, Matt Bant's Necron showcase. I do have showcase videos out there for the 13th and other things that I've done. Necron, I think the Penitent Forger for showcase. There's a few showcases out there. Many dead ancient alien robots. That's a good name for a video, but yeah, you see, when you come up with YouTube videos, it always helps to put either 40k or Warhammer somewhere in the title, because people will be searching 40k or Warhammer. Necro Monday. Yeah. So we're here today to talk about any questions, by the way. That's the Necrons done. That's my projects for a bit. I'm filming the STC later, so got to get through this. Rue, £2. Good evening, Rue. Nice to see you in the chat. I look forward to seeing you at the Wild West Showdown, which is this Saturday. 2 games. If you're watching this anytime after recording, there's still some tickets left for the Wild West Showdown in Cardiff on the 8th, and it's 2 games, 1 day. I'll be there, getting there early in the morning, and there's about 80 tickets sold so far, so it's a lot of people there, and 2 1,500 point games with a massive raffle and a chance to win me, a chance to play me. And if you want tickets for that, then they're available to Deployment Zone members. Check the Discord, and available to channel members. My channel members, check my Discord, and you can get tickets to it. And I think it's only 15 quid. 80 people in a room. It's not a tournament. Playing 2 games of 40k, and Rue's going to be there. I look forward to seeing you there. It'd be absolutely fantastic. And maybe you and I, maybe you'll win me, Rue. You'll win me over. You'll win me in the raffle. You'll take me down to your corner of the room. You'll put your little men all across the table, and I'll put all my little men all across the table. And then one of us will make the other cry. It'll be glorious. Or maybe one of us will make the other laugh and laugh and laugh, and oh, the blessed serotonin filling our spinal nerves, our brain, and when we next plug in to the machine mind through our MUI uplinks, the God engine will be lifted to a level of war that entire Xenos races will crumble. So yeah, there's still tickets available to the Wild West Showdown in the Discords and things. Hope to see you there. Where was I? Have you considered having an authored game with a Black Library writer as a guest for a 3-part narrative script? Well, I can't imagine that there is any Black Library writers that would want to do a campaign with me. Social media is a hard place to be for someone who's quite well known, and for someone who's a puddle of well known, such as me. I'm well known by some in this tiny community of ours. Even my little puddle withers under the heat of the hate that can come sometimes, and you develop coping mechanisms for it. And then people who are well known, such as your Black Library writers, or even Codex writers and people who work for Games Workshop, some of the more famous ones, but people who are well known by almost everyone in the community, to expose themselves to that level of scrutiny and that level of feedback and that level of, not this feedback and scrutiny, actually, it's not that at all, because proper feedback meant well, and proper scrutiny, which is tempered by humility as well, because proper scrutiny should always be tempered by humility. It should always be tempered. And what do we know? What do you know? Always listen to someone. Always listen to people when they're talking. Always listen to people when they're writing and playing and doing things. If you're going to pay attention to something, pay full attention to something, because you might actually learn something, something you don't know. And it's not all about us, of course. It's all about others. So, yeah. But what you're really looking for when what really gets to you is the red heat. Is the red heat from some people, and it can hurt. And there's a reason why super mega stars such as your Henry Cavills and Keanu Reeves and Will Smiths and people like that, their social media is entirely managed. It's because it's impossible. It's impossible to survive the volcano at that level. I think so, for most people. So I wouldn't ask a Black Library writer to come on the channel and none would offer. We down here, me and you, this community, we're really small and we love each other, and that's good enough. And Hugo, thank you for the 10 gifted merchant memberships. You are a legend. I love you, sir. My pussy is scratching the door. Hey, do you want to come in? Do you actually want to come in? Do you want to say hello to the internet? Yeah? You good boy? Do you want to say hello to the internet? P90? No, don't pull that wire. Say hello to the internet. Come on. Hello, internet. Meow. You smell so good, but I know it's weird. I know. But he smells so good, and I know they're not clean. They're just covered in spit. Where are you going? But honestly, he's old. He doesn't clean himself very much. Are you leaving? Please leave. Please. Get out. Right, okay, I'll have to leave the door open for a bit, which means we might get ambient sound, and I also might be distracted by other ambient sounds. Your donut's there. Sleep in your donut. I'm not going anywhere. You're holding up. There's 93 people. Thank you, drama queen. So clearly he just wanted to come in and check that I'm okay. Big round of applause for Hugo Merchant in the chat for gifting all those memberships. Please give him a bigger round. Big hat. Well, anyway, what are we talking about? I think I got deep in a thing because that's where we are this evening. Because where we are this evening, we've done all the other stuff. So cut, we can edit. And now I need the stay on target tribe in the his house. You need to start representing, keep me on track. Because now we're going to talk about 10th edition Warhammer 40k. So, 10th edition Warhammer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, we're good. Yeah, so sorry. So, 10th edition Warhammer 40k. I want to talk about 10th edition Warhammer 40k, and I keep meaning to make a video, and it has been suggested of me to make a video where I tell you what my 10th edition Warhammer 40k wish list is, what I want to see, and what I think we might see. And I don't know if this is that video, because I always thought before this video that the best way to go about doing it was actually going. So when I make videos like that, I actually go away and think about it quite a bit and write some scripts and write some ideas. Well, not so much scripts and writes, but I've written some ideas for this one. Across about, ideas. And I thought if I made a live stream where I talk about my wish list, my hopes and dreams for what I think Warhammer 40k 10th edition should be, in my humble opinion, then it will help drive a conversation in the community, and it might help drive a conversation in your discords, in your forums, in my discord, in my forum, and it might drive a conversation somewhere in Games Workshop as well, potentially. Lots of people are trying. So 9th edition didn't go very well because 9th edition is the tournament edition, and clearly Games Workshop listened to something somewhere, either internally or externally or both, but they made a conscious decision 9th to change direction, and the direction they changed. The direction they took was more competitive Warhammer 40k. We had actions for the first time. For the first time, units did things that didn't affect other units or their own units. They just did a thing which affected rules. this thing affected only rules. It didn't affect anything else. The secondaries came, and then tertiaries came with the latest thing, and complexity was woven in to the core mechanics of the game and the codexes. They made a decision to become more competitive at the expense of non-competitive. And they thought non-competitive would go crusade and non-competitive would go open. But they took away, they made crusade narrative and narrative crusade. So there was no distinction from Games Workshop about non-crusade narrative, such as attack and defend missions, or people making up their own narratives, or the potential that crusade could have had if it had brought out historical narratives, such as the Siege of Terra, or the devastation of Baal, or the First Tyrannic Wars, or even the Pariah Nexus conflict. And they missed the potential in crusade by making, they missed the potential in narrative by making narrative only crusade and not crusade a part of narrative. It trapped them within their own thoughts. And Killer Kriesman, welcome to the 13th Tier 3. Thank you, first member of the evening. You were a legend. So 9th edition was someone listened to something somewhere. A decision maker made different decisions. And here we are. And so I think the rumours all suggest that 10th edition is going to be a reset. How much of a reset is the first thing I want to talk about in my wish list for 10th edition Warhammer 40k. This is my argument. There has to be a full reset, index heavy reset. I know Imperial Guard are still to come out probably before Christmas this year. And then I suspect that 10th edition normally launches in May, June, July, that sort of time, May, June, that they could have less than 4 or 5 months with their Codex. But imagine if you had a Codex and then 4 or 5 months, your Codex. Imagine this is your Codex right now. I've got my Codex finally. And then in 4 or 5 months, the edition changes. Now, how more pissed off would you be knowing that you've got to wait another 2 or 3 years sitting with that Codex when the edition changed? Or, okay, I've got to buy an index. Which would you rather? Now, I know I would rather get an index rather than wait 2 years with what could potentially be a shitty nerfed index. So I know it's crap for Guard either way. I know one way it's crap, the other way it's crap. Leagues of Votan and all the other ones that have come out quite recently, I know it's a bit crap. But please, someone, Games Workshop, Throne of Terror, hear my prayer. Index the shit out of it. Let's reset. 9th edition was the competitive edition, and you went in the wrong direction, and you feel it, and we feel it, everyone feels it, everyone knows it. Yes, you made money this year, 10% return, and was it 3.8 or 3.6% profits? That is a mile away from the profits that you made when 8th launched, and a mile away from the profits that you made when the pandemic happened. Now we can see some false positives in there, can't we? And we know that some people in Games Workshop are thinking perhaps the market isn't there, but these were just sustained. They were tapping into the potential of the entire 40k market for a period of time, but that market's finite, and or of finite capital. That market has finite capital with which to buy Games Workshop stuff. So there was these false explosions, and they had a finite amount of capital, and then they spent it, and then they had a finite amount of capital, and they see these things. But nah, that isn't a finite amount. That is an amount that was pushed out of the hobby, that decided to spend more on the hobby during COVID because they couldn't play with anyone. And really, what are we all first and foremost? We're not all first and foremost players. We're first and foremost collectors. The people who paint collect. The people who watch lore videos collect. You need to collect something in order to play it. So the most important market is the collector's market. get as many collectors as you can playing as possible, and then you expand the players market. These are not, there is a lot more out there that I talk to, that I've polled with on this channel, that I've asked questions on this channel. We would be much poorer if they only sorted their shit out. We get it, you get it, everyone gets it. Reset. Let's go hard on the indexes. Step 1. Step 2. Now that might actually happen. I don't know whether it will, but that might actually happen. Step 2. What do you think of step 1? Annie Henderson, thank you for being a member for so long. Evening, hope you're well. That's your well. You need YOU colon RE. It's UR, not your bread, your potato. It's I hope you are well. So it's 2 words. It's an Americanism, essentially. But we can't let people know that the Guard are the backbone of the Imperium. Anyway, so yes, so you seem to be chatting amongst themselves. Well done. So we need a hard reset, and so Andy Henderson, it's the Brummie in me. Apostrophe, not colon. Yeah, I get them. The colon goes up. That's it. That's why. Colon goes up. Apostrophe comes down. Someone says not a potato. Grebshim lol. Right, good. Yes, so hard reset, that's what we do. And then the second thing I would like to see is that there aren't any new codexes for 4 months. And then when codexes are released, they're released 2 at a time. And perhaps every 4 months. Now, step number 2, when we're talking about Codex release, it was very Games Workshop. Here's the thing that smacked me. When Games Workshop made that apology video, and fair play to them making that apology video, they took the piss out of themselves, which was awesome, which was why I felt I should take the piss out of them as well, because, you know, we didn't want them to be on their own in the corner just slow hand clapping themselves. I wanted to clap at them too. It was a great video that they did. Anyway, what was I saying? Yes, Games Workshop made that video. They apologized for the Votan, and it was a great video. I just had to parody. I just had to do. Anyway, then came out the pieces of paperwork that said why they made the mistake. And they said the reason why they made the mistake is because they balanced it with Eldar and Tyranids recently. And Eldar and Tyranids recently have been nerfed because they were a bit strong. And so Votan was matched against those. And so Votan's a bit strong, so they've nerfed Votan a little bit, mainly in points, but also the 6s don't count as auto wounds anymore. James Ty, thank you for the second dodo of the night, you legend. I'll see you in Cardiff this weekend. Please come up to me, James, and say, hi, it's James Ty. Do you remember that guy who did the GTG? The one, yeah, come and see him. Yeah, that. And say that in that voice when you come and see me, please. I'd laugh my ass off, actually. If you came up to me and said, right, Wyndham, how's it going? I'm James. I gave you that thing. It was good. Do that. I'm begging you, please. It will catch me by surprise in the middle of it. And, yeah, I could do with that serotonin hit. I'll laugh. There'd be a little bit of serotonin. Inject me. I need it. Will do, buddy. Thank you. So, what were we talking about? Stay on target, tribe. You're supposed to be helping me out here. What was I talking about? I was saying that we need to reset. I was saying the Codex is every... League of Votan. League of Votan, that's where I was. They said that the League of Votan... This is what Games Workshop said. The Leagues of Votan were a bit... Stay on target. Thank you. Essentially, what Games Workshop said was the Leagues of Votan were a bit tough because they were play tested against a certain couple of codexes, which shows a fundamental flaw with Games Workshop play testing philosophy. So this is what I propose, particularly as we're launching into 10th edition, that they play test all the codexes, the ones that come out right at the same time and the ones that come out later, against a baseline. What the Games Workshop have told us is so they don't baseline. They don't baseline. The codexes are tested as they go. No wonder why there's codex creep. And I suspect they've been doing this forever. There's no baseline. What is a baseline? Well, you could make anything some baselines. You could make an army, and you could call it the Grey Army. And you never make any models for this army. Games Workshop has the Grey Army in the back, and it's got 6 heavy, 6 fast attack, 6 different troops, and they just use like lumps of crap. Okay, they go outside, they find fossilized lumps of crap, and they bring it back in, and the Grey Army has all these rules, and the Grey Army sits there, just piles of fossilized crap. But whenever they playtest a new army or design new rules, they design it with the Grey Army in mind. These lumps of shit. And the idea is that the new codex has about a 50% win rate against the lumps of shit. Sometimes it might be 90% with certain builds versus certain builds, and sometimes it might go 10% to 90% the other way with certain builds versus certain builds. And there's the beauty in the game. What kind of builds beat that army but are terrible against that army but are good against that army, and they balance it against the lumps of shit. Not the next codex to come out and then next. Why doesn't that army exist right now? Anyway, so codexes that are playtested 2 years prior, but the updates and facts aren't considered. There was a comment in one of my videos recently where some chap said, "Oh, I don't understand why they make all these mistakes with the codexes, because they're all playtested at the same time and designed and written together," which they're not. We know that they're not. There's been enough leaks from enough sources over the years to tell you that they don't do it all as one. And anyway, we use our brains on this. There is a rules studio in Games Workshop somewhere where people are paid to write rules, and they're managed by someone who makes decisions, and then they're managed by someone, and I think that's Robin Cruddas. I think we even know his names. They're paid to write rules. Some of you might have met people and it's their job. They can't write all the rules for all the codexes for an edition at the same time. How many of them do you think there are? It's a process. Revelatory idea. They test all the codexes against a baseline army. Here's another revolutionary idea. If you don't want to make the lumps of crap the Grey Army, make that baseline codex Space Marines. Space Marines comes out at every edition, pretty much without fail. Also, Space Marine comes out at every edition with a couple more codexes around it, like Necrons or Death Guard or whatever the crap. This time it seems like it's going to be Codex Tyranids. So you're obviously playtesting the launch edition codexes around each other. Every single codex that comes out following this edition, for that edition, is playtested exclusively against those codexes. There's your baseline. And none others are allowed or tolerated. Anyone who breaks the rule will be excommunicatus traitoris, and the Inquisition will find them and punish them and exterminatus their planet or their small town or the McDonald's they hang out in, or whatever. That's what the Inquisition is there. And their baseline, and they playtest, and the average win rate should be 50-50. Depending on builds, depending on this, depending on that, depending on that. Hey, it doesn't mean that this codex beats that codex 50% of the time. In 2 years' time, when they release Codex Eldari again, hey, let's say this one, Codex Exodites. In 10th edition, Codex Exodites gets released. It's, oh my God, and it comes out 2.5 years into the edition, and we have elves riding dragons with laser beams. They make the money! There's a faction we'd love to see, but we got space squats. Anyway, elves riding dragons with freaking laser beams from their sharks with laser beams. $1 million. They got that coming out. And that codex with all the new model range and the Indenith Deepkin sort of thing going around them and and it's a sort of a cross. It is the cross. Have you ever wanted to mash sci-fi with pure fantasy, with literal wizards and druids and dragons breathing fire with sci-fi mush? Print that money! That codex is play tested against the baseline 3 at 50%, and it wins about 50%. What do I mean by 50% win rate? I mean, if you run this codex, 100 armies from this codex, by the 1,000 armies from this codex, 1,000. I play 1,000 games using Codex Space Marines, which was a launch one, versus 1,000 games of Codex Indenith Deepkin, Exodite, Space, Samurai, Badass, Dragon Riding Elf Robots. Then this one will win 500 and this one will win 500. And sometimes this one might win 10 in a row and this will lose 10 in a row. And sometimes some of these builds are much, but overall it wins. You run them 1,000,000 times against each other. You give that to 100 people when you say 1,000 people over there, you tell it to play 1,000 times. And 1,000 people over there, you tell it to play that 1,000 times. And they play against each other those 1,000 times. And the average win rate between all of that factored across is about 50. However big a sample you want to make. That's what you've been aiming for. Codex creep is, I don't want to say exterminated. I don't want to say I've solved codex creep. I don't want to say that I'm a genius, but I am the 2021 No Retreat Legends of Legends champions. And that took an amount of genius that no other man on this entire earth or woman could muster. I did it. And I did it for us. I did it to show that even the humble person, even the non-tournament person, even the weakling who was bullied at the back of the school, even the marsupials in us. I mean, what's that all about? They're not mammals, they lay eggs, but they got even the marsupials amongst us, the bungled and the botched, as Nietzsche said. Even we can occasionally see sunlight. Which is why I want to catch you on Mondays mainly, because you're all hard and hot and ready after your weekend, ready to go. But here we are on a Tuesday at the wrong time. Did Dragon Riding Elf Robot, we need that, exactly. You know what I'm talking about. Sanguinary Guard Winters, you're so humble about the trophy, I can barely see the... Yeah, I know. I try not to mention it, though I think, like Dr. Disrespect is the 1997, 98 back-to-back blockbuster video game champion. And he's kept that with him all this time. I'm thinking I could keep this with me for that long. Mind you, we'll be like 100 when it's... Where are we now? Alan Tidwell. AI would need to be introduced into wargaming. Can you say Skynet? No, we're talking about... Keep talking amongst yourself, chat. Wonderful. So that's one of the things. Two big resets for 10th edition. Big reset. They need a baseline to test codexes against. And so those would be two big changes if they did that. Third big change is competitive play needs to become its own thing. So they can keep match play, narrative play, open play, if they want to keep that distinction. I don't really care. Open play should be exactly what it says on the tin and have no more than a page in the main rulebook. And open play should say, use power, bring what you want, have a game. It's for noobs, it's for kids who want to bring their Night Scythe with their Greater Demon and their 5 little space squats. Or it's open. That's one side of open play. But it's, power, bring what you want. No force org. It's one side of it. Or you can add some maps and you can add some objectives as well. So here's a type of open mission. Here's another type of open mission. Open mission using power, bring what you want. But here's an attack defend. Here's you're outnumbered 2-1 and you need to survive. Here's the open war deck for some crazy shenanigans. Narrative play is Crusade, and narrative play is not. Crusade could be so much more if they included historical events, and not Crusade is the stories that we make up ourselves. They don't have a monopoly on narrative. They have their narrative, and they should provide us tools for playing our narrative. And by tools, I mean there should be rules and games. There should be a open play mission pack. So open play is power level, do this, but here are some mission packs. Narrative play, here are our mission packs. We call them Crusade, but here's how you could go about here are some miniature mission packs for you. And in narrative play, you could either put Maelstrom of War in there, or you could have rules for fighting on desert worlds, jungle worlds, things like that. But it's exclusive in the pack and only if you play narrative play. Ways for leveling up your guys, but interactive environments mainly, and some kind of campaign progression mainly. And then match play can have more than one way of playing as well. Match play needs to include casual play. So I'd have casual play in there. Match play, casual play. And these are the old school missions where you had an objective each, or there were 6 objectives down on the table, or you just attacked each other. Big Guns Never Tire, The Relic, those kind of casual play missions that you can play when you go along and have pickup games. Then I would put Maelstrom of War in here, and Tempest of War and things like that for other kinds of match play. And then I would bring in, and there would be a old school mission pack, casual play mission pack. So in casual play mission pack, here's different force orgs, or here is different reactions. We'll get onto that you can use. And in the Maelstrom of War mission deck, there'll be different rules in there, like when you draw three cards and you can't score either of them, chuck them all, things like that. And in the competitive play, tournament play mission pack, they'll have, say, only 2 detachments, max 2 detachments. But they could have rules in there. They could have, this is at 2,000, this is a 1,000-point match play set, this is the 2,000-point match play set. In the match play competitive play mission pack, they could introduce the notion of secondaries or tertiaries, or how many threes you want to add. So competitive play, tournament play needs to become its own thing with its own matched pack, play pack. Just like Maelstrom of War, Tempest of War has its own pack, or Open War has its own pack, or other things have its own pack. And in Games Workshop, the mistake they made in 9th edition was making it the competitive. 9th edition is the competitive edition. That's a mistake they made. 10th edition needs to be the here's the different ways you can play edition. Ninth edition was the competitive edition. 10th edition needs to make sure that competitive play is a portion of that edition. It's something that you can choose to do. Just like you could choose to play Open War, or you could choose to play casual play, match play, or you could choose to play Crusade, or Kill Team, or Apocalypse. It's just another game type. It's difficult getting that concept across. I still get messages. People still talk to me. Well, people always talk to me, but I still get messages and questions asked about what is Tempest of War? Why aren't you playing from the main rulebook? There's still a good percentage of people who watch my battle reports that think there is only one way of playing Warhammer 40k. 9th edition has made such a bad job at telling people that there's a different way of playing. And I know it's in the main rulebook, and I know it says open match narrative, but that doesn't tell people anything. When the open play games and the narrative games, and even the secondaries, everything is designed, everything has the competitive play mindset in mind there. The balanced data slates that come out all the time, the 6 monthly seasonal updates that come out all the time. It's telling people that this is the way to play, not a way to play. And there's definitely a percentage, quite a high percentage of people who just don't know that there's more than one way to play. And that's on GW. In 10th edition, competitive play needs to become a way to play. Open up and celebrate and champion as many different ways of playing with your collection, because we're collectors first and foremost. Open up as many ways to allow people to play with their collections as possible, and then more people will play with their collections. and then more people will add to their collections. That's how this shit works. That's why games companies sell rules, and Games Workshop used to be just used to be a models company. That's why this models company now started to sell rules for its models, and that's why other games companies sell models for their games or models for their thing the other way, because we like to collect things, I think. Words. You get me? I think it's also due to tourney type channels like TTT love them, but they focus on match play. Well, they do a bit of match play. They do. See, this is the thing. Most people are looking. There was a perception previously that the most competitive. No. There's a larger audience for playing 40k well. If people want to watch a battle report, most people want to, not most people. If people want to watch a battle report, there's a larger audience that wants to watch battle reports played well with strong lists and people know what they're doing. And there's not many of us on YouTube doing that. There's lots of battle reports, but how many out there can you honestly say? 10, 20? Is 20 too generous? Maybe there's 100. Maybe the ones who are doing it with well-painted miniatures, with good intentions, with strong lists, with a good knowledge. Yeah. I don't know how many do it well. There's lots and lots that do it, but do it well, and then it's a bell curve, right? And then you've got the ones at the very top, and the ones at the very top are quite clearly tabletop tactics, mini wargaming, and the play on tabletop, and all these names that we know so well. Yeah, it's not easy to do. And my hat's off to Tabletop Tactics for everything they do. But there's a larger market for that. And there is also a market, there is also a share of audience for people who want to see casual, who want to see 30k, who want to see kill team, who want to see bolt action, who want to see just lore videos, who want to see hobby videos, people making and doing stuff like Squidmar and Midwinter Minis and Goobertown Hobbies and people like that, and they actually get a larger audience of people watching that. So there's lots out there, but all those people are collectors. Get them playing. And yeah, so on the battle report side of things, people tend to watch the more competitive side of things more. But there's a very large number of us, I think, that also just want to be entertained, want to see a good battle report. And if it's against two weak armies or mid-tier armies, so long as it's entertaining, so long as there's a story happening and a push and pull and flow, heroes standing, bombs going off and explosions, and some of us like the ridiculous thing, like that one shot Overwatch which stops the Carnifex in its tracks, or that thing that blew up which blew up the other thing next to it and killed a chunk of stuff right in the middle of the table. And oh my Emperor, how are they ever going to come back from this? But by the end of the game somehow it's a draw. Some of us like that too. I think we all like them all. I think we all like what we like. And we have preferences. But yeah, I mean, it's your search which drives yours. Everyone's on YouTube's search which drives or gets more views. It's no one's fault. It's no one's fault at all. It's an effect of who we are as a community. Good luck to anyone trying. Good luck anyone trying to make it out there. It's got to become a hobby. You've got to love it yourself. You've got to love it for doing it. 3D printing is a bit like that, because people keep asking me about 3D printing. And from all the 3D printers, people that I know, the people who do it a lot, Not the people who turn it on once a month, because most people just turn it on once a month or once. But the people who print a lot, it becomes a hobby in itself. I don't want another hobby in my life. I don't want the hobby of learning how to 3D print on top of... Oh, I've got enough hobby, thank you very much. I love this. So, yeah, you got to love this, and you got to prepare for this side of it to become a thing in itself. And love it. And I love this. I love you guys. What was I talking about? 10th edition. Okay, let's back. I think I fixed the... strong argument for the reset, right? 10th edition Warhammer 40k. Strong argument. Reset. 1. We won that argument. 2. It needs a baseline for which to measure all the codexes against. And I made some suggestions. The piece of shit army and also the launch armies. And then I think we single-handedly solved codex creep with that one. Then what else were we talking about? AAA, I love spending time with you. I know a triple D. You're AAA though, so cool. Winters, what do you think about unit restrictions like 0 and 1 and 3 plus of others? Yeah, I'll come on to unit restrictions. So, well, we can do to that, actually, if you can't remember where I was. So let's talk about the codexes. This is what I think should be in the codexes. I could pass all my notes. How much time have I got? Oh, good, 45 minutes. I think codexes, first of all, I think codexes should have an army selector in them, by the way. So Adam Tidwell, to answer your question. What I mean by this is, in the main rule book, I like what they've done with detachments, but I would get rid of CP. I'd put something, I would have no CP. So you can pick these detachments. And there's a fast one, there's a heavy one, there's an elite one, there's a patrol, there's a brigade. I like all those detachments. Single Lord of War detachment, great. Supreme Command detachment, get rid of. Additional, add a thing, get rid of. So you've got patrol, battalion, brigade, fast, heavy, elite, one Lord of War slot on their own. And there's reasons for this. Those are my slots, no CP. And then in each codex I'd have and then what you do is in matched play, competitive play, in their mission pack, it might say, for example, you may only select a patrol, 2 detachments, and it may only be a patrol, a brigade, a battalion. A maximum of 2 detachments, and it must be from them. Say it said that. Or say it said you may only pick 2, but it could only be a battalion, patrol, brigade, either 2 of 1 or 1 of 1 or whatever, and a Lord of War. So you can chuck your Abaddons in or your Guillimans in, and that could be in your tournament play mission pack. And that's a rule for tournament play mission pack. We got any mods that can kill the Slaneshi demons? Sanguinary Guard, hit it. Thank you very much. Hit those Slaneshi demons that jump in. Yeah, so you'd have standard detachments, and then in your book you would have an army selector section, and the army selector section would include 3 things. One is reserves. How many reserves are you allowed to put in your army? So some Space Marine chapters and elite-based armies might be able to reserve up to 100% of theirs. Some armies like Orcs or potentially Tyranids might only be allowed to reserve up to 50% of their army. But put it in the army selector section, because then it's a thing you can balance against. Some armies will have more or less than other armies. Some will have armies. How much can you reserve in each detachment as a percentage of your? Make it a rule. Stick it in codexes. Yeah, so something you can tweak up and down as and when you need to. Well, not as and when you need to, but if you're testing everything against the baseline codex, it's something you can factor in. The second thing you should add is there should be, where are we? My balance select. So in the army selection, X number of reserves. What are your number of reserves? And it should be in units. Sam Nash, member for 10 months. Thank you very much. We're fixing codexes now. 10th edition codexes, Sam Nash. One thing first, army. So reserves have become a thing. X number of units you're allowed to put in reserve in this codex. It might be all, it might be 3, it might be 6, it might be whatever, and that's a factor that you can balance for. The second thing is this codex allows +1 troops or +1 HQ or +1 elite. And you put elite, and in every codex, depending on your detachment, so you can bring a patrol, but Codex Space Marines allows you to add +3 elites. That's what this codex does. And when you look at your opponent, oh, you've got Craftworld Eldar, what does that allow? He says, well, I've got a battalion, but in Codex Eldar, it allows you to add an elite heavy or fast. It's like, oh, okay, that's really cool. That's what it does. So that's why you've got 4 heavies there. And yeah, that's why I've got it. And then over there, you've got some fellow who's got Codex Demons versus Codex Chaos Space Marines. And you're like, oh, how come you've only got 6 like big demons? Oh, well, 5 big demons, sorry. So, well, this is allied to that. These are my 2 allied detachments. And in Codex Chaos Demons, you can add +3 HQs. Wow. So this is actually a battalion or a patrol, sorry. And I've got my 1 HQ and I've got my 3 other HQs. And this big blobby thing over here is actually a troops. So you have, it's a thing you can balance against again. So Codex Space Marines, Codex Orcs and Tyranids might allow, in any given faction, in any given detachment, you can add more troops or add more elites, and it'd be on a scale of +1, +2, or +3 for that slot. You could even factor in things like Leagues of Votan at the moment, and at the moment in their slots they don't add any in. Or Tau might only be able to add, it might have 0 extra HQ, 0 extra troops, 0 extra this, 0 extra that, but you might be allowed to add 1 more heavy for every Tau detachment that you take. Factor that into a codex. X marks the number of reserves. This codex allows X number more per detachment of this unit type, and this codex allows 25% allies in these factions. And so in Tau it might be, in Squats it might be Eldar and Tau. In Space Marines it might be Custodes, Guard, whatever, but factor that into the book, which is and then it doesn't become a universal thing. It's this book allows these allies, and going forward allies are 25%, or they become another faction, one of the 2 factions in a certain match play limit. You could put them in the match play packs for Maelstrom of War, or the casual play, which is you may bring up to 2 detachments and 1 may be an allied detachment. But bake it into the codexes because it's things that it can be tweaked for, not in the main rule book. Because in the main rule book, if you leave it fixed in there, and certain codexes which will come out will break the meta because they've got really strong fast, or really strong heavy, or really strong this, or really strong that, and you can tune for it if you have those factors in the codex. So allies, how much they can put in reserves, how many additional unit types that codex might allow. And typically, by the way, I'm only looking at this as maybe 1 or 2 or 3 slots. Maybe there's a limit to the total amount of slots that this codex unlocks, and maybe it's only 3 in total, and 2 might be in heavy and 1 might be in a flyer. Going forward in competitive play, for example, when AdMech flyers break a certain game type, you could lock off one of those slots for them. So in match play, competitive play, it's now -1 for, or maybe it was a +1 for them before, and it becomes a 0 for them before. So they don't add flyers depending on how many attachments that they have. So that's just in the codex. So in the codex, you have your units in your codex, and you bake as many rules into the stat line as possible, and you bake an invulnerable save into the stat line wherever possible. Just put it in the stat lines. In the codex as well, there's rules for reserving stuff. In the codex as well, there's rules for your force org, because everyone needs to know your force org, so there's rules for your force org. And in the codex, that's the codexes. And Dats and Des, it's starting to sound more complicated than Ninth. I'm definitely behind every single rule set at a tournament though. It's not sounding more complicated than Ninth. You've already got rules on Force Org. I've lost my piece of paper. We've already got rules on Force Org. We've already got rules on all these things. Right. The main core rules can largely stay the same, as far as I'm concerned. They're good except for cover, and cover save needs to be dense, light, and slowing. They're fairly good except for actions. Actions shouldn't be a thing at all, and needs to be, if you want to keep it, it needs to be in competitive play, tournament play. But actions are a rule that force me to interact with rules. It's not, I don't interact with my opponent. Let's put rules in this book which stop me playing with you. Now I'm just going to play with rules. What the Emperor? Detachments, like I said, the Supreme Command and they all need to, that needs to go. It needs to be a pure thing, and then you can balance it in the codexes. You do that by getting rid of CP, and you do that by getting rid of stratagems. Instead of command points and stratagems, you have what they already have in Age of Sigmar and what they already have in Warhammer 30k. You put in reactions, because what are stratagems if they're not reactions? I'm deep striking in here. Okay, I'm more specs and scan. Okay, I'm going to try and shoot you, but you're really tough and strong, so I'm going to spend the CP. I've got +1 to wound. I'm reacting to you. Oh, you're moving in close. You're trying to charge. I'm going to spend the CP to stop you charging. I'm going to spend a CP so I can do something or you can't do something. That needs to end, because too many feels bads happen because of it, and because it doesn't exist in the other games, so it makes it as accessible. It's clearly accessible in those games. It's a better system. Stratagems are reactions in most cases. There are some stratagems which you pay at the beginning of the game to give people relics and warlord traits and things like that. And there's other stratagems as well which might heal you back up again. But again, that's reacting to stuff. But if you look at it from a certain perspective and pull the blinds shut a little bit, reactions and stratagems are relatively the same thing. So get rid of command points, get rid of stratagems, burn it all down. And I propose in each codex you have 3 reactions instead of stratagems. And so when you rock up in your game, Eldar versus Space Marines, you could ask your opponent, what are your stratagems? And they could ask you, what are your reactions? What 3 reactions have you got? And you can do 1 a turn, but you've only got, you can do 1 once, and only once, and it will last for a turn. So in 2 turns, you're not doing anything at all. You're not reacting in any certain way. But in 3 turns, you will be reacting in a certain way. And part of the magic will be, when do you deploy your stratagems? When do you do one of those 3? And to make it even simpler for each person, so I'm Space Marines versus Eldar. Okay, you've got stratagems. Sorry, reactions. What are they? They're kind of the same for everyone. They're either offensive or defensive or tricksy. So you can say, well, I'm Eldar, so I've got 2 offensive ones and a tricksy one. And the 2 offensive ones are, all my army can reroll all hits this turn, and all my army can reroll all hits next turn, or I can do this turn. And it's powerful, and it's pokey, and it's big, and it's powerful. It's like, oh, that's really strong. And it's to do with all your Shuriken weaponry and Shuriken Storm, whatever you want. Or it could be the other way. You can have, well, I'm really... I'm Craft World. No, do that for the Dark Eldar. The Craft Worlds, you say, we're a dying cowardly race. So my 3 reactions that I've got, Dats and Des, when I play you and your Space Marines, my 3 cowardly ones are, it's Mirage Launchers, and I'm -1 to hit for a whole turn, and I can do it twice, and -1 to hit for a whole other turn, and then all my cowardly Mirage Launchers are all, because they're 2 defensive ones instead of 2 offensive ones. And then my tricksy one is, again, in another turn, I can move an extra 4 inches. All my stuff can move an extra 4 inches. It's called Sprint, really hard. It's called Run Away. You're like, oh, cool. What do you have because you're a Space Marine? You say, well, because I'm a Space Marine, I've got 3 stratagems or 3 reactions. 1 offense, 1 defense, 1 mix, because we're in the middle. We've got a really powerful offensive thing with bolters. We've got a really powerful defensive thing called I'm really tough and I get back up again. Or everyone gets a 5-up, feel no pain in that turn. And then we've got a really cool, not tricksy one, but we've got a morale one, which is fearless. No one runs away for a turn. If the captain says hold, we hold. So we've got an offensive one, defensive one, tricksy one. And every codex has got 3 stratagems or 3 reactions. And that's it. And you've got them in 40k, 30k, and you've got them in Sigmar. And some of them will play nicely against each other. And some races will have more offensive or more defensive. Some will have a mix, some will have this, and some will have that, depending on how they play. But there's 3. There's not like 5 and pick 3, and then the bloke turns up at the game and there's 2 gotcha moments because you weren't expecting that one and that one. Or it's not like there is everyone gets the same 3. You need some variation in this game. You need some love in the game. And the stratagems, the reactions need to be quite pokey. They need to be like, ooh, if he does that. Yeah, I'm a Harlequin player. And I just let you know that one of my tricksy stratagem is in one turn, for the whole turn, if you come within 12 inches of me, I can move. So I can move any unit to make sure they're outside of charge range. It's just one turn. You can flying in anywhere, but I'll tell you that turn, like, okay, because I've got to decide it at the start of the. This is the thing. You'll play at the start of the game turn. What turn are both armies in? What are they both doing? So the active player starts off by saying, okay, this turn I'm going to hit you with loads of stuff, and then the defensive player says, right, this turn, because a turn consists of 2 player rounds, 2 battle rounds. And then and then the active player must declare first and the second. And that's how I would bring reaction stratagems things into 40k. And I wish it was that simple. Bravely run away, that definitely sounds like an Eldar strike, exactly. Would you keep command reroll low? No, I would get rid of command points. I would get rid of command points completely. Now, here's the thing that you could introduce. So command reroll. Here's 2 strats that I'm willing to introduce in the core rule book. And one could be fearless. One could be you pass morale. And everyone's got access to that, and everyone's got access to it, say, once. And then maybe it affects 1 unit once. Or maybe it affects... But I'm happy with a 1 hit per game in the main rulebook reaction. Hold the line. That's awesome. It's narrative, and it brings up lots and lots of strategic options. I'm up for the idea of command point reroll as well, but more powerful. I'm up for this idea, and it could be called the Dice Gods reroll. I would actually call it the Dice Gods reroll, and it could be once a game at any point. You can make a reroll, and I would make it more powerful. If it's like none of this rolling 1 dice at a time. If you're doing 5. And then you want to do Luck of the Dice Gods, then you pick up all 5 and you chuck them again. Not picking up, mixing and matching which ones you want to go with or which ones you don't want to go with. Call it Hail Mary, call it what you want. But a re-roll in there, a mechanic that you do once and that everyone has access to. I like that idea. So yeah, I would include reactions. How much time have we got? We've been invaded by Slaneshi demons. Call it priority orders. Bots, if they keep strats, they should all be 1 person. No, not strats. Strats are reactions, just call them what they are, which is reactions. You don't need stratagems to have a strategic game. And there's too much to learn, and there's too many gotchas, and the last thing people teach. I speak to a lot of people who teach other people how to play 40k, their friends, their family, their girlfriend. There's perhaps a lot of you listening out there right now, or listening after this has been recorded, who've tried to teach friends and family or someone out there how to play Warhammer 40k. And stratagems is the last thing you hit, right? This is how you move, this is how you shoot, this is what a stat line is, this is what the unit abilities are on there. And you don't even touch relics or warlord traits for a bit. You get them using the datasheet at the start, and you've got the datasheet at the start, and you try and get them to kill you, and you kill them, and that's the basics of Warhammer 40k. And then, and then you might start adding on things to that, and adding on things to that, and adding on Force Org, and then maybe adding on some psychic powers, or what a captain does, or getting up to warlord traits and relics. And you would stratagem the last. And there's a reason why they're last. But imagine if they were first. Hey, these are the stat lines that your army does. These are the data sheets. I'm teaching you. This is Space Eldar, sci-fi Space Eldar riding dragons. This is Exodites. Craft World is coming out. We've got 40k and sci-fi. We've got Eldar riding with laser beams, and it's awesome stuff. And you teach, and they look at the model range. The new plastic models are mixed between AOS and Warhammer 40k, and you go, wow, oh my emperor, I need to buy that. And they make bank. We've already discussed this. Bank money. And you teach little Timmy how to play the game. And you say, right at the start, oh, here's your 5-6 miniatures, bring what you want. It's power level, it's open play, do what you want. Use the data sheets that are there. Oh, and by the way, your stratagem, and you start the thing. Your reaction, once in a turn, your high roll army gets to move twice because you're flying dragons. It's a thing that they can do. That's their shenanigan things. And they've got another one which makes them really tougher to if they're going second, and one that makes them a bit more aggressive if they're going first, because they've got an aggressive one, a defensive one. So you're sort of training your dragon, you're telling it what to do, and little Timmy goes, yes, I can't wait to get to turn 2 when I can go charging in with all my stuff. And it's got a reroll hits on the charge for your whole army or something like that. You start with it, and it becomes a thing that little Timmy might actually well, I've heard that army over there does this sort of thing, and it's really tough and hard to shift, and that's the kind of army in their space zombie things. I want that one. It becomes a selling point, not like okay, have you heard of this broken stratagem with that relic and that warlord trait? And on the subject of relics and warlord traits, there should be warlord traits in the Codex, but they should mean something. What does that mean? It means that if your warlord dies, the effect of your warlord dying should be felt. Your warlord is dead. So, warlord, I mean, it's not like just a captain doing... Captains losing an aura is a thing, but what I mean is, if someone is in line of sight or range of a captain falling, or maybe captains do something like this. Maybe your warlord does something like this. Because we're working this out together. Maybe your warlord has maybe your codex, you can do, of those 3 reactions, you can only make reactions when your warlord's on the table. How about that? That's the effect of your warlord. So if you kill the warlord early, you lose the ability to do reactions. Or another thing, quite simply, that if your warlord is on the table, your whole army gets +1 leadership. And then when your warlord goes, your whole army loses 1 leadership. I would bring in, say, 3 warlord traits and put 3 warlord traits in the main rule book. And I would also put 3 relics in. But I would make them the same. So there would be 1 offense, 1 defense, and 1 trickery, 1 in each book, and they would roughly do the same thing, and they won't be overblown mortal wound machines like they are now. So for example, one of the relics could be mastercrafted, select a power weapon that your warlord has. This gains +1 strength, AP, and damage. And then you can easily match that in many other books. Select a claw that this thing has, and it gives it +1 strength, +1 AP, +1 damage. You can multiply that across. But again, three of them, it makes it very easy to balance these things and opens up all sorts of complexity, all sorts of different ways of talking about mortal wounds. What do they need to do with mortal wounds? Well, in my humble opinion, there should be less of them. But feel no pain should be a thing. So here's what we should do. So there are universal special rules now. Games Workshop tried to kill them, and then they came back in all the keywords and all the different descriptions that we have, all the different ways that you can say bolt of discipline without saying bolt of discipline, all the different ways you can say -1 to wound without saying -1 to wound, all the different ways you can do this and do that. So feel no pain is a thing, and it never went away. Just like objective secured never went away, just like deep strike never went away. But the way to solve the universal special rule problem is to write them on the data sheets, but to draw from the same pool. So it can be Miasma of Pestilence. Miasma of Pestilence gives a 5-up feel no pain, which means that you and write it on the data sheet, and write it on the data sheet, and write it on the data sheet. So feel no pain. Feel no pain could be a 6+, 5+, 4+. It could even be a 3+ with certain spells on it and certain things on it. It could become a 3+ for a certain model. But make it a sliding scale. The amount of pain you can feel or not feel across certain units. And bring about more of it. And mortal wounds, there should be like a cap of no more than 10 mortal wounds per turn your army can kick out, even if it's maximized here or maximized there. But what I would do is maybe 15 per turn that your army could kick out. But let's say that a maximized Codex here versus a maximized, this can chuck out about 15 and this could chuck out about, say that's the maximum cap. But each codex has accesses to different types of feel no pains or shrouded. So these are after you've taken damage saves. So are you hidden? Are you shrouded? Do you not feel the pain? Delightful agonies. I really like that agony. I get a 5+ feel no pain. Or I'm hidden. I've got this miasma thing. I've got a shrouded of a 6-up, or a feel no pain of 5-up, or a shrouded of 4-up. You have these combat mitigation saves. Need to be in about 25% of the codexes and there's loads of different ways you can word it, but then say feel no pain or right. And then in the main rulebook there's a catalogue of these names which says feel no pain, and it explains what it does, and it's basically a FAQ in the main rulebook. So if anyone wants to say, well, what is the interaction with feel no pain with this over here, you can go to the main rulebook and it's there. And then mortal wounds needs to be no more than 10 or 15 per turn for every army. Every army needs some kind. So here's a thing that you could do as well. For example, you could make it that your captain has a power sword, and the power sword does 1 mortal wound in addition. So he does 5 damage or 4 damage or or however much damage he lies down, but he does a mortal wound in addition. You could have melter guns firing at stuff, work out all the damage, then add 2 mortal wounds in addition to melter guns. You could do it with, instead of rail cannons that ignore invulnerable saves and go straight through stuff and the wound spills over and all that kind of crap, instead of these, what you do is you have a rail cannon, say a strength 10, AP 1, damage 10, tau, crappy thing. But when it hits you, it does +2 mortal wounds on top of the normal damage. So you can use mortal wounds as a way to modify the damage stats of certain weapons. And that's where the mortal wound output comes from, either from certain weapons. These are really powerful. These do mortal wounds. Stuff blowing up, they do mortal wounds. And some spells do mortal wounds. But if there was a cap, if there was a rule in Warhammer 40k, rules right in HQ, and if they baselined it against the same miniature range all the time, then they'd understand that the baseline is no, this army, no matter how you can configure it, cannot chuck out more than, say, 15 mortal wounds a turn. Particularly when your opponent really only has the opportunity to shrug, say, 5 or 10 of those mortal wounds on a 50-50. There's some core balancing that goes on right there, right at the core. So that's what you do with Mortal Wounds and Feel No Pains, and you bring back universal special rules, which never went away, and you call them special rules, and there is a pool of 30 to pull from. And these rules already exist. We all use them. They're the minuses to hit, and minuses to wound, and the pluses to hit, and the pluses to wound. They're the stuff that slows you. They're the stuff that instant deaths you. There's the stuff that... I wrote a load down. There's the stuff that heals you, regenerates you. There's the open tough stuff. There's the furious charging stuff. There's the fighting back or firing twice or outflanking or getting pinned in place. We all know what these rules are, and we played with them in 8th edition. And we played with them in 9th edition, and we're still playing them in Horus Heresy, and they certainly played with them in 7th edition too. And Simon Templar, thank you for the second donation of the evening. Love you. Drinking from your Winter's mug. Watching Winter's mug. That is absolutely glorious. Did I mention earlier, between the last video, thank you so much for buying the glorious stuff. Since the last live stream video to this one, one t-shirt. Just one. What a legend. Thank you so much. Maybe I'll sell. Have I pimped it enough now? It's new t-shirt. All these rules exist. You've got core rules, you've got army rules, and then you've got rules that manipulate army rules that manipulate the main rules. That's how it works. Or what you can do is just have a rule set which has main rules and army rules, and that's it. But those rules, the army rules, need to be really, really simple, and that they just become playing pieces with stat lines that move around in the main rules. So you don't want that. You don't want chess pieces of stat lines fixed in this rule system. You might as well be playing chess. You want ways that your units manipulate the main rules, stuff that makes stuff go up and down, this go up and down. You make it very simple. So there's loads of stuff that's -1 to hit. I'll give you an example. Miasma or Pestilence. I'll give you another example. Stealth Cloaks. I'll give you another example. Some HQ characters are so swordsman-y. Is it Drazar, Master of Blade? I don't know. Some of them are so swift. They're -1 to hit. Aircraft, -1 to hit. There's loads of -1 to hit. So why don't Games Workshop have a rule called hard to hit 1, hard to hit 2, hard to hit 3, hard to hit 4. And it says on the Codex, like, oh, I've got a flyer and it says hard to hit +1. And it says hard to hit +1 when an enemy rolls to hit this unit, they've got to add 1 to their, make it worse. -1, +1. How does that work? Math. It's harder to hit, hard to hit. And you can have hard to hit in close combat and hard to hit with shooting. And in the main rulebook, it says 1s are always misses, 6 are always hits, regardless of any modifiers. And in the main rulebook, you say that to hit rolls cannot be increased by more than 2 or reduced by more than 2. Not 1, 2. If someone is moving on foot with a las cannon firing through a tree at a flyer, it's not -1 to hit. Okay? I don't care what you could do in the tournament play competitive match play section is, in this section, modifiers to hit are never more than -1 or +1. You could put it in there and it could be head and... But in all the other rules, hard to hit special rules. So Miasma of Pestilence, this casts, if you cast this on a 6, your target becomes hard to hit +1. Hard to hit +1 is this, and it says what it is on the psychic thing, and it says what it is on the flyer datasheet, and it says what it is wherever the hard to hit rule pops up. It says it on the hard to hit thing. Someone killed this nasty bots, please. It says it on all the hard to hit things. And then in the main rulebook, it says hard to hit is a modifier of +1 or +2. It may never go up more or less than 2. And it means either in close combat or shooting. Simon Templar, drinking. We did that one. Thank you very much. Delete the spam. I don't know how I delete the spam. Do I just delete? It says unhide user on this channel, so I'm assuming the channel is already hidden. And the main rulebook, essentially, so when you read the main rulebook, it will say, this is the movement phase, and the rules are relatively the same, except for, what did we discover? What did we agree? Cover needs to go, actions need to go, detachments need to be tidied up, and the lookout sir rules need to be tidied up. But apart from that, the main rules are pretty cool. And so it says this, and you still use keywords for things like vehicle and for hard to hit and for all these sort of stuff, because they're shortcuts to vehicle. The shortcuts, because vehicle means something in the main. Whenever there's a black bold text on a data sheet, so hard to hit, this, that, and the other, and the rules are below it, or vehicle on a data sheet, it's referring to something in the main rule book. So vehicles, flyers, inventory, And in the main rulebook, there's the catalog of 30 words. And in it, you've got feel no pain. You've got objectives, which is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, or a 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You've got a hard to hit, which is a 1 or 2. You've got a rending, which is rending 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is reroll hit rolls a 1, reroll hit rolls a 2, reroll hit rolls a 3, reroll hit rolls a, with a number next to it. You've got hidden, which is you can't shoot at something. You've got fleet, advance, and charge. You've got unstoppable, never be pinned, locked. I've got all 30 I've written down, and I'm going to tell you them. I'm going to tell you, here are Winter's 30 USRs that fix the game because you put them on sliding scales. Okay? And then you put them in all the Codex. So, where did we come with number 1? It starts on number 4 for some reason. But you need hard to hit, hard to wound, and then better to hit, better to wound. Hard to hit +1 or 2, hard to wound +1 or 2, better to hit. So I would call that accurate. I would call it hard to hit, hard to wound, accurate, and then rending. There's your first 4. And then we've got Eternal Warrior. You can't lose more than 4, 5, 3, 2 wounds per phase. Make it whatever you want to. But Eternal Warrior, and you can put that on tanks. You can put that on Titans. You could have, for example, on a Fellblade heavy tank or a Baneblade tank, you could give it the Eternal Warrior 8 rule, which means it can't lose more than 8 wounds in a turn. But you could put Eternal Warrior 4 on your Ghazghkull Thrackers or your Catans or your whoever you want to. Or even with Gulliman with his, not Gulliman, but Calgar's got 7 wounds, but you could give him an Eternal Warrior 5. Be nice, wouldn't it? And don't make it per phase, make it a turn. This can't lose more than this turn. And it's basically something that stops stuff getting one-shotted. Hidden, can't be shot. Fleet, advance and charge. Hit and run, fall back, shoot and charge. Or fall back, shoot or charge. Relentless, you always count as stationary if you made a normal move. Unstoppable, you're never pinned, you're never locked. Never considered to be in combat for Titanic stuff. For some HQ stuff. The Khan is unstoppable. He's never pinned. He's never locked. He's never considered in combat. Swarm. And remember, you're writing this down. Here's this is a Necron Scarab Swarm. They are unstoppable. And then in the datasheet, unstoppable. They're never pinned. They're never locked. They're never considered to be in combat. Because they're a swarm. They can move on. Fly. Ignore terrain. Charge. And I'd make the charge rule. I'd have a rule called charge. And charge means you can re-roll charges. +1, +2, +3. What does that mean? Make it scalable. Charge +2. What is that? Khorne Berserkers have got charge +2. What does that mean? Let me read my rules. Charge +2, and it's on the datasheet. Charge +2 means you can re-roll charges and add 2 to your charge rolls. Charge +1, +2, +3, +4, +5. Fearless, stubborn, tough. Tough is -1 damage. So that's your Here's the thing, dreadnoughts are tough 1. That means they reduce damage by 1. What about tough 2 on Titanic stuff? Reduce damage by incoming damage by 2. What about storm shields? If you had storm shields, you get tough 1. Reducing incoming damage by 1 on storm shields. Open top should be a rule. Surge should be a rule. Surge is double move. If you don't shoot, because you've got actions, right? I've got a point for movement and a point for attacking. And normally it's move and then shoot, or move and advance. But double move. Some things can surge instead of just advance. Deep strike obviously needs to be a rule. Slowing needs to be a rule. Some terrain needs to be slowing. Slowing 1, 2, 3. How much do you slow someone by? If you fire these cluster grenades have this profile. If you hit a target unit, if you hit a target unit, they suffer slowing -1. So until the start of the next turn, which means all of their moves are -1. Slowing -2, all of their moves are -2. Remember, an advanced move is not a normal move, so you roll for it beforehand, but slowing 2 will be 2-inch slowed on the move and 2-inch slowed on the charge. Here's a spell. There's some spells that get thrown out which slow people down, or EMP grenades which slow charges. Stuff like that. Slowing, affecting movement needs to be there as much as running, and the surge move, double move needs to be there as well. Shrouded, 6, 5, 4, 3. It's a wound mitigation roll like Feel No Pain. Regeneration, which is return models. This model has regeneration 1 or 2 or 3. Tyrannid swarms, Hermagaunts, Termagaunts have regeneration 3. What does that mean? At the start of your turn, you can put 3 models back in. At the start of your turn, you put 3 models. So Hermagaunts, Termagaunts have endless swarm, which gives them regeneration 3. In the datasheet, regeneration 3 means you can put 3 models back in at the start of your turn. Apothecaries, 1 model back in at the start of your turn. Here's a spell. I am a Chaos Sorcerer, and I've cast a spell over there. And the effect of the spell is regeneration +1. So my Obliterator stands back up again, or my Chaos Possessed stands back up again. It will not die. 6, 5, 4, 3, returning wounds at the start of your phase or at the end of your phase. We need Furious Charge, +1, +2, +3 attacks on the charge. We need no Overwatch phase. Instead, you have a rule called Defensive Gunners. It's quite simply, it's a universal rule. It's in the main rule book, and the units that can do it have the Defensive Gunners rule, which is 6, 5, 4, and it means that that unit can fire Overwatch on a 6 or a 5 or a 4. At the start of 8th edition, every unit could fire Overwatch. When he charged in, charging was exciting because there was Overwatch all over the place, but ultimately what happened is there was lots and lots of dice rolling, slowed games a long way down, and nothing died. So in 9th edition, they brought in 1 unit Overwatches, just 1. Games Workshop, can't we have some fun back? Instead of having all the overwatching, which is really slowing the dice game down, why don't we have half overwatching and half not, or even a quarter overwatching, but bring in a rule which is called Defensive Gunners. The Land Raider battle tank has Defensive Gunners 6. So when you charge it, it can fire Overwatch at you on 6s. But Tau, you might have all Tau troops have Defensive Gunners 5, and in the Tau sheets it says they hit their Overwatch on 5s, and they can all fire. A cowardly Tau, half of their army have got Defensive Gunners, maybe on 6 or 5s or even 4s. But this is the thing, because you can put spells on people, remember? So, say you've got a Space Marine battle line, and say in Space Marines there's only... This is how mixed Space Marines are. Their tacticals would be able to fire Overwatch, but some of their elites, only some of their elites would, only some of their heavies would, and only some of their fast would, because the rest are too busy enacting. They're not standing ground like in Space Hulk, the video game, where you're like, right, I'm ready to Overwatch now. It's not a conscious action. They're busy killing. So to hold the position, Devastators, to hold tanks, things, to hold it, then they gain Defensive Gunners, but hitting on 6s or 5s or something like that. But then that gets rid of Overwatch, and then again in the main rulebook you'd say Defensive gunners is something, an ability a unit gets. Mortal wound mechanics, we talked about that. Is that my 30? 25. Pinning needs to be a rule. Sniper fire and artillery fire is important, but also spells might be caused pinning. We need a mechanic back. So if you've got mechanics for running, surging, double moving, things like that, then you need mechanics that slow people down, such as the slowing spell or slowing terrain or other effects, and you need a pinning effect. So sniper fire and artillery is a thing, and then if you get pinned, you don't do anything. And it only lasts a turn unless you get charged. You don't do anything. Make things pinned. You can offset it by stubborn or fearless, and you can also have pinning -1, -2, -3, -4 to your leadership test. Volley fire needs to be a USR fire twice. Fight back needs to be a special one. Here's an idea for you. Wolfen and maybe some other units have a fight back rule, which means they always fight at the end of the combat phase. When all the combat phases are done, they fight. Even if they've already all fought, or even if they're dead, they fight again, fight back. Outflank needs to be a USR, and so does Scout. And Scout, again, you can have Scout 6, 7, 8, 9 inches. These are Scout vehicles. They gate Scout 9 inch, which means that before the game begins, you may choose to move this, and in the main rulebook. And you've got a pool of 30 core rules that we draw on, which we've always drawn on, and it covers everything. And it's important for it not to be 90 or 60. It's important to make those core rules as... It's important to reduce the number of core rules as possible. But if there's only 30 of them, and we're all using them all the time, and that's where the skill and the expertise comes in learning your army. But that's also where the fun and the gameplay comes in, because you can build a Space Marine build that has all the swiftness and all the speed that it can do. You'll have other builds which are very, very aggressive and can go over this way. You'll have flexibility in the system for spells and effects to make things go up and down. You don't have to have 28 different rules for Terminators hit on ones. Just make Terminators hit on ones. Make units that are fast, give them higher movement. Units that have invulnerable saves, just put them into the stat line. Make invuln part of the stat line. Eternal Warrior could be more of a thing, particularly for tanks, particularly for large stuff. So change the Satan, Ghazghkull, Thraka, Abaddon, I can't lose more than X wounds a thing. Turn that into Eternal Warrior. You can't lose more than X wounds per turn, and make it a thing that just... Each warlord in each detachment surely should have Eternal Warrior. Can't be one hit in one turn. No one loves that, right? Your Archons, well, except for Eldar. Make them one-hittable, because they're dying and they're fragile. Never liked the Overwatch mechanic. I liked as a stratagem, so limited in its use. Yeah, I like the Overwatch mechanic. But it isn't strong enough. Right? Even now, it's not strong enough. The curve goes like this, and then it shoots off the scale when you hit stuff with flamers, here's my flamer, which is strength 6, 60 damage, 6 wounds. And I've got 28 of them, and you walk into and you die because you just charged the thing with flamers. Less stuff should be out of Overwatch, but it should be more effective at it. So again, going back to Space Marines as an example, say all intercessors, say all tactical Marines Overwatched on 5s. That's just what they did, because they designed to hold objectives. And Eradicators are walking forward, so they're not designed to do. But then other units, so you might have... No, Aggressors are coming forward. So you might have Eradicators Overwatch on 6s, Tanks and Devastators Overwatch on 6s. The fixed position kind of guys. So it might be something running through their mind. So you make Overwatch a thing, but make it more effective. So Tau can Overwatch on 5s and even 4s. Most of their army can. Custodes, hardly any Overwatch at all, potentially. Harlequins, hardly any Overwatch at all. But if defensive gunners becomes another rule that you could write in, if Overwatch essentially becomes another rule that you could write in using the defense, just like you could write in Shrouded, just like you can write in Feel No Pain, just like you can write in this unit has got more attacks, this unit reroll charges, this unit is just like other rules that you just write it in there. Okay, so my Tau are overwatching on 4s. All the Tau troops overwatch on 4s. OM Emperor, that's really powerful. But the battle suits overwatch on 5s, and the Riptides have defensive gunners on 6s, and then there's some units like Kroot and others that don't have defensive gunners, and that's really powerful, sure. But Codex, Khorne, World Eaters, everyone's got fleet, so they can all advance and charge, and everyone's got charge, which is reroll charges. Well, not everyone, but a load of them have got advance and charge and reroll charges, and it's charge +2, which means they can reroll charges and add 2 inches to the range of their charge. Crazy. Oh, engagement range needs to change. Bring it more like Age of Sigmar. Here's what, so many confusions about engagement range. Closest model to closest model, straight line. Easy ruled. Everyone remembers. If I'm charging another unit, my closest model moves to your closest model. Yes? Done. All of the other models need to end up in engagement in coherency with the first model that charged. Done. Easy. Who can fight? Anyone within 3 inches. If you can't move the first model in base contact with the other model, then bring in the 1 inch and 5 inch rule for the first model. And if the terrain is too wide, if it's bigger than 1 inch, then you've got to go all the way around. And because it's too big, you can't fight through that. And if you've built your scenery, which means you can put units in a place which is more than 1 inch thick all the way around, then you're cheating. Because that's cheating. Oh, they're in a bunker, and then you have to shoot a few of them first, and then you can jump in. No, it's cheating. Just say it's cheating. There needs to be... Because above, you see, on platforms, 1 inch and 5 inches, you can fight that way. But if it's a thick wall, you can't fight. So terrain, there needs to be no singular in the terrain section. Quite simply, you write it down there. There can't be bunkers that are made of more than 1 inch thick, because the closest model moves to a closest model, or 1 inch and 5 for that first thing. And then everyone is within coherency. Then you can pile in your 3 inches, and then every model within 3 inches. Just like Sigmar, it's so simple. Or 1 inch and 5 inch if you're not within 3. That's engagement range. Make Overwatch like Advance. You give up shooting on your turn to be able to shoot on the enemy turn. No, why? See, Sintram Dragonis, you're so wrong. Okay? And there's loads of people who make suggestions like this. So I'm about to take you to school, so strap yourself in. What you're doing there is you're introducing a mechanic which says that I can do this if I do this now. You bring in lingering effects, and we want to minimize lingering effects wherever possible. Psychic spells, mortal wounds should do the thing straight away. Psychic spells should have the effect as much as possible whenever they can, and perhaps be the only thing that allows lingering effects, or your core reaction for your army, lingering effects. But you can't bring in, you're trying to reduce as many instances of if X then Y later on, because that's more stuff to remember and it makes the game less casual. There are other ways to bring about what you're doing. If you say you want to make Overwatch like Advance, you give up shooting on your turn to be able to shoot in the enemy turn. There are other ways to bring about what you want to bring about without having, that whole thing in there. Basically, defensive gunners, if you've got the rule or not, means that you can shoot or not. If you've got an Overwatch rule, it means you can shoot or not. Go to ground, for example, shoot or not. Lingering effects are bad. If you want to be able to, you could write that in there. If this unit stands still, then it gets defensive gunners. It could be a tau thing, all right? And then you tell your opponent they stand still, they stand. Yeah. But not a rule which then relies on you to remember another rule further on. Because as soon as you let one in, the dam bursts, and then you need to make it as simple as possible. Where are we? So those are the things I would like to see. The 10th edition. I would like to see the Codex streamlined. I would like to see, lookouts, change that to hidden, and make some units you just can't shoot at them if they're in certain range of other units. Done. That's that rule sorted. And you can always shoot them if they're the closest in line of sight and range. And if that means you can rhino peek, and if that means you can do some things in match play, competitive play that is very unsavory, then that's something you can address in the FAQ for that game. Because 95% of people who aren't going to tournaments and are playing casually, they're never going to do that. It's not going to interest them. They're not using the rules to that level of advantage because they don't know the rules to that level to take advantage of them, or they don't care about. They care more about having fun, and their warlords are up there having fun. So when you go to the tournament, sorry. When you go to the tournament, your goal is to have fun and win. Or your goal is to win and have fun. Or your goal isn't to win at all, it's just to have fun. Because you don't want to win and you don't care about winning. But the point is, in the pool of people that are going to tournaments, there is a percentage of people in there that part of their goal or their goal is to win. And that's great. And some people enjoy winning. Most people enjoy winning. Some people really enjoy winning. But that's not everyone's goal of 40k. Some people want to throw dice and have fun. And 40k needs to, and 10th edition needs to appeal to both sets of players, because 10th edition only really appealed to those on one end of the scale and not the other. Plenty of friends, plenty of people I know, and you know plenty of people that have quit the hobby in the last couple of years because they just weren't having fun. Anyway, I think I'll shut up. I've rambled on for at least a good hour and a half. Thanks for coming along. No more questions. Heretic Dave popping in. Evening Winters, how you doing? I was just going, Dave, I've got to go. 8 o'clock. I'm recording the STD with Warsmith Chris. So if you're in my channel members Discord, don't forget to drop a lore question. And we can't make this on our own. We need help making these beautiful content babies. So if you want to inject some... if you want to inseminate my mind with some suggestions so we can make beautiful content babies together, then channel membership Discord is the place to drop it. Anyway, thanks everyone for stopping by, swapping by. That was a good rant this evening. I feel like I've cleared myself. I'm looking forward to reading some of the comments in the comment section about some of my ideas and things. I'm fairly certain I didn't make all of them as clear as I could. So in summary, the core rules are largely good, just need tidying up. And that includes the weapons, that includes the sections on weapons, sections on vehicles. They're good. Ways to play needs to be diversified and separated. Stratagems need to go, because the link rules between... Because rules that affect rules like stratagems can be in the main rule book and can be equally in all the codexes, and they can be selected from a pool. And those are rules that affect rules. And I made a bunch of suggestions about that. The codexes, where does the flexibility come from? The flexibility needs to come from the codexes, but not too much. So you give each codex abilities and force org changes, and relics and warlord traits, but you have less of them, but they're more impactful. And they're all balanced around the same scale, and they're all balanced around a single codex or a single chunk of codexes. Everyone is play tested against that exclusively. And tough if the play testers don't like it. The ones that you're paying at Games Workshop to play test your games, if they're playing 1,000 games of the same army again and again over the course of 2 years, then tough. It's a job for them, and they've got to suck it up and play it. And if that means that, I don't know how many playtesters they actually have in-house, and I pray to God they do have some, because sometimes I do get worried that they don't have any in-house playtesters whatsoever. But even if there's just 2 or 3, those that run the department or whatever, they have to playtest those codexes against the codex from 2.5 years ago, the one that did the edition. They have to. And if it sucks because they played against it 20,000 times, then it sucks, and it's a job, and suck it up and try and do that. And just because it'll help kill codex creep, it solves it. And we're genius. And then there's all sorts of other problems with accessibility, and I talked about how they release it and when they should release it. But the accessibility side of things needs to... Yes, with indexes. Right, brain running out. Need to go. Thank you for jumping in, and I hope you enjoy this podcast thing. Looking forward to reading your comments. I'm going now. Happy wargaming.